take home the gold.
He could be too far. No, he's kicking. Oh, what a catch!
Puts a spicy forehand out in front of Naomi Morcilla.
Wu for the win. Team Canada. Darren Wu!
Santos with the layout grab.
Oh, that fantastic grab. The claws of Chaffer.
Canada just became the world champions.
Yo, Canada and the rest of the world. You're listening to the Huckin podcast. I'm one of your hosts, your only host for today, Theo, living in Kingston, Ontario, originally from the 6, Toronto. So excited to talk with you again. This is going to be a very long, girthy, big, exciting episode. Lots to talk about. This took many hours to prep. So as YouTubers would say, drop a like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Write us a Spotify review, all that stuff as we get into episodes. So we're talking a bunch of tournaments that happened over the weekend, both in America and here. Obviously, I'm going to talk about Worlds in the main event, along with previewing BC and Ontario regionals that's happening this weekend, and then our nationals field will be set as well. So for me personally, I get to play regionals, which I'm pretty fired up about. Got to go to Quebec to watch some high-level ultimate, and then also got to test out this new camera for work, which is also pretty fun. Want to first thank everyone for some of the social media love. We're getting a lot of followers on Instagram, people reposting our stories and stuff like that, or not our stories, our post of the graphics and stuff. So big shout out and thank you for doing that. Means a lot, and it allows us to reach more people. So thanks for doing that. With that being said, lots to talk about, so we're going to head to the news.
We now have breaking news.
All right, we're going to start in the United States of America. We're going to go West Coast here and talk about a tournament that happened in Oregon. So Pro Elite West, TCT event. So some of the top Canadian teams were going. And so we're going to start in Open and talk about GOAT from Toronto. They started out with some big win over Oat, 15-8, and then had a huge pool play matchup with Sockeye, which I believe is filmed. I'm going to edit it at some point. As part of the Ulti World pack, you can watch it eventually. So eventually it will come out. So you can check it out there. So they lose 14-13 in that contest. Close one to Sockeye. Puts them into the pre-quarter here where they take out Make It Rain 15-6 and then defeat a good team in Atlanta Chain Lightning. A lot of the top teams here are good. So any W's are... should be celebrated. So Go takes down Chain Lightning 14-11. And then I don't want to say they run out of steam, but because I haven't seen the footage, but they drop a game to Revolver 15-9 and eventually finish fourth, losing to Rhino Slam 15-11. So not some close results at the end per se, but I think some good things to take away for GOAT. They obviously will be playing regionals this weekend. So we'll be talking about them at some point as well. They had a lead on Rhino, I've been told, but weren't able to pull out the W there. Going to talk women's. The lone Canadian team there was Traffic. They were seeded fourth, so second in their pool, but they actually win their pool, which is really exciting. They first get a big W over Nightlock with those Vancouver-themed jerseys, 14-9. And then they follow that up in their matchup, 1 versus 2, with a victory over Molly Brown, 14-9. So it wasn't like a universe point squeak-out victory. This is like we're showing you that we can compete with the top teams kind of victory here. So lots to be excited about if you're a Traffic fan in the audience, because that's a pretty hype result. They take down Riot 14-7 and then absolutely obliterate Underground 15-2. And the way the format is set up, the 1 versus 2s play each other in the semis. So they got to play, and this was a matchup I had said in the preview I was looking forward to. They got to play Flipside out of California. They win 13-11, get a rematch with Molly Brown. This game was also filmed, the Molly Brown Traffic game. Eventually you'll be able to see it if you're an Ulti World subscriber. That's always the annual plug or weekly plug to subscribe. Molly Brown takes that game 15-10. So, yeah, lots to take away for traffic to be excited about. You're obviously going to be playing regionals as well. Competition a little bit different than what you would experience there at Pro Elite. But they were missing some players, obviously, as well. I mean, both of those teams, it goes without saying, with U24s happening. So to experience those results, got to be feeling good. We're going to jet to, I guess it would be Central Time Zone out here in Aurora, Illinois for heavyweights. Union was the second seed overall, originally seeded 15th, which would have been a criminal underseed. They moved them to the second seed, so top of Pool B. And pool play, they just take care of business. 13-2, 13-1, and then 13-8 against the second seed in their pool, Yaba. Gets them a bye into quarters where they defeat Point of No Return from Stevens, Wisconsin. And then they defeat the 1 seed in a close matchup, Cincinnati Steamboat 12-10. And they eventually get the tournament W over Bird 12-9. So pretty exciting for them. I've heard they're rocking the New Jerseys as well. So pretty cool that they were able to get the dub. And yeah, we'll see. I talked about this last week. We'll see how it plays out in terms of them playing a tournament before regionals. So we'll see what happens with their squad heading into this weekend. All right, so we're gonna move on to regionals recaps. Let's start out in the West Coast. BC Juniors. Lots of bids on the line, 9 in fact. We're gonna talk about pool play first. So starting open. Everything went to seed from my calculation. That is severely wild that took place. So every single team that was wherever they were seated, that's where they ended up. So you don't see that kind of stuff happen, the chalky stuff like that. So that is pretty wild. Dino, they're just showing their dominance out here. I think they'll be the favorites in juniors. Manitoba Open, maybe Toro, other teams have something to say about it. But honestly, I think Dino's just on a wrecking crew path here. 39-7 score diff. Pool B, Canyon, they defeated Eclipse, which was the second seed in the pool, 11-3. Eclipse, actually, to get second, had to beat Turbo, the third team out of the Prime Ultimate Club, by 2. Pool C, Vortex took care of the second seed in their pool, Helios, pretty easily, 13-4. And then Helios had to beat the third seed in their pool, Richmond Rain, by 2. Nitro, the second team out of the Prime system in the Open Division. They beat Fire Pants, love the name, love the kind of swagger on their social media. They win 8-6. So it sets up like the first place teams, they get to play semis into getting first. The second and thirds from each pool go into this like 5th place quarters. So let's break down 5th place quarters. Chaos, everything here going to seed. So Chaos defeating Vintage 12-5. Helios beats Turbo by 1, 9-8. Eclipse beats Rain 8-3. And Fire Pants crushes Ascent 13-2, setting up 5th place semis. Chaos dispatching Helios, and then Fire Pants with, I guess, the upset. They are going to take down Eclipse 10-5. I don't really think, based on what the seedings here, I think actually that is not an upset. If they're snaking it, Fire Pants would have been the 5th seed. So not an upset. Fire Pants take care of business. Chaos wins. I believe they're a newer team on a Kelowna there, so they win 11-8, get 5th. Eclipse takes 7th with their victory over Helios, and so we're going to move into the 9th place battle, because the teams that lost the 5th place quarter, they're going for 9th. So Vintage and Ascent win their respective games. With Vintage, a team out of the Fraser Valley, part of that Vortex system, they get 9th, finishing, and they win 12-6. As always, I'm going to talk about my picks, but let's talk about first to 4 before that. Dino defeats Nitro, little Prime Ultimate Club battle. Vortex defeats Canyon 9-5. Dino takes first place 10-4. Once again, I wasn't there, but based on the scorelines, I don't know how tested they were. They get first. And then Nitro, huge W over North Shore Canyon 9-7. So those are your 9 teams that are going to be going to nationals. I missed on a few teams here, folks. I got to admit that to you. I picked Richmond, Rain, Ascent, and Turbo to make it. They did not. Helios, Vintage, and Chaos made it. And the only teams I got right in placement were Dino and Eclipse, 1st and 7th, respectively. So a little tough here for your boy making some picks, especially when you don't have film or things to see. We're going to jump to junior women's now. They had a few more. They had more pool play games because they had 2 pools of 5. So that allows Dino to kind of really show their dominance in the women's division with pool play. By my count, 52. We got to double check this because this is a nutty scoreline here. They won all their games by a score of 13. So, I mean, they had scores of 13. And so, yeah, they had a score differential of 52. Let's double check this right now. 5. Okay. I mean, what else do you want me to say about dominance when a team is winning with the score differential of 52-5? Like, that's nuts. So, anywho, Helios finished second in their pool. They defeat Canyon, which was the original second seed of the pool, by 2 points. There was a 3-way tie happening in Pool B, which was kind of fun. Leads to a bunch of chaos here. Vortex, which was the second seed in their pool, believe 3rd seed overall, if it's Snakes. They went 4-0, so they took care of business. So let's talk about the 3-way tie briefly. Eclipse defeats Rain 7-6. Rain wins by 3 over Nitro, and then Nitro beats Eclipse by 4. But because Rain won by 3, lose by 1, they're +2. Nitro wins by 4, loses by 3, so they're +1. And then Eclipse, by virtue of their big loss to Nitro, they dropped to 4th in their pool because of that. So now we have traditional quarters out here. Dino, Rain, Nitro, and Vortex win their quarters. So Dino and Vortex were the top seeds going in. They win their quarters pretty easily. Nitro actually gets the upset here. They're the 3rd seed out of their pool. They defeat Helios 11-6. And then Rain, which was the 2nd seed out of Pool B, by virtue of that 3-way tie I just mentioned, they win a close one against Canyon 7-6. Vortex and Dino meet in the finals. It's 12-5 Dino. Dominance once again from the Prime Ultimate Club. They got the talent. They're both gunning for titles. Remember, this is not... they're going to have players from this Eclipse team from last year that won in women's and came 2nd in Open. Just had to remember that. And so it's a new club. They're still Eclipse that's operating out of Vancouver, the VUL. So just remember that when you think about these teams. Nitro gets 3rd as well in the women's, defeating Rain 7-3. Looking at 5th place losers of the quarters here, I guess. They lost the quarters and now they're in the 5th place semis, I should say. Canyon defeats Eclipse 9-7. Helios gets the win over Vintage 8-2. And so Canyon wins at 9-6 over Helios to get 5th. And this is the game to go now. Eclipse and Vintage, they dropped. So they're playing in the 7th place game. Eclipse gets the victory 11-3. So they're moving to Nationals, staying in BC to play that. Picks once again. The teams I missed on here. Only Vintage. Looks like I missed on Vintage and I didn't pick Helios. So Helios made me look silly in both of the divisions there. So something to keep in mind for me as I make picks for later. The only place I got right was Dino there. Now moving on to Senior Open. There were one team, that was regionals only. But the main contenders we were looking at were Furious George, Blackfish, and Surf. Furious George takes care of business, winning all their games and going 5-0. Looking at their score lines here, 13-2, a few 13-2 victories, but they had some close ones with Blackfish and Surf. They win 12-8 both times against Blackfish and Surf, respectively. Of course, this sets up with Surf winning their games that they had to, and same thing with Blackfish. Blackfish-Surf matchup, the proverbial game to go, 10:30 a.m. on Sunday. Shout out to Gagan Chata who streamed the second half. Unfortunately for the viewers at home, it wasn't that close. Surf tried to make a run, but Blackfish kind of showed their dominance. They were up at half and took care of business, winning 13-8. So Blackfish going to Nationals again. they got some players you can watch out for, and I'm excited for their prospects at Nationals. I know I didn't give them some love last year, so seeing what they're doing this year, and perhaps maybe I'll change my mind. Let's go into Quebec regionals now. In the women's division, there were no bids to be had in terms of teams going home, but there was still seeding to take care of. So we're going to start in pool play. Pool A, Cube. Wow, just like complete dominance out here. 3-0 in pool play, 44-9 score diff. Did not let more than 3 points in each game. So I guess scores finishing up 3 each time. So that's pretty crazy. Momentum beat EXO as I predicted. They finished 2-1. Valkyrie actually gets upset dub 14-7, at least in the seeding. They go 1-2. Iris goes 4-0. Their pool had 5. Their closest game was Venus, a fellow team out of Quebec. They won 12-7. The other 3 opponents, this is wild, combined for 3 goals. One team got bageled. So Iris score diff was 57-10, and Venus accounted for 7 of those goals. Venus gets second, finishing 3-1. Vintage 2-2. Paul Luck and crew round out the bottom of that pool. Sets up some play-in quarters. So Venus, basically the winners of the play-in quarters would play the top seeds Cube and Iris respectively in the semis. So Venus wins over Valkyrie 15-3. Momentum, huge, and I mean huge. Victory over Vintage 10-9. New program on the scene, getting dubs. Love that. But unfortunately, the semis don't go their way. And Iris and Cube make it to the final. And I sound like a broken record. Unfortunately for Cube, it doesn't go their way because Iris wins by a scoreline. Look away if you're from Quebec City, 15-2. Was buzzing around the complex for this tournament. So caught a little bit of the women's final. I know when the score started to get away, I was watching some other things happening. But Iris obviously in firm control. Cube had a really cool film setup. I posted on our Instagram. You can check it out. I guess the story's disappeared, but hopefully you checked it out when it did. Just like this really tall, hand-built setup with a camera on top. There's like a screen on the bottom with an operator that can actually like turn and view what's going on with a decently big screen. So as otherwise, obviously, you wouldn't be able to know what you're filming. So really cool setup. Not sure if that person's engineer, but it looked really cool. Venus gets third, defeating Momentum 13-8. And yeah, I got all 4 picks right, I believe. So I'm going to give myself a pat on the back for that. Mixed 8 teams. Once again, bids to be decided already. So just fighting for seeding. Cold wins their pool in emphatic fashion, 3-0. Flames on Rose, a little upset, 4-5. Matchup in the pools. 2-3 in the pools, 4-5 overall seeds. And they win 10-7 over Quest to finish second in the pool. Pool F, Harfang taking care of business. They defeat Red Fox. I'll prove my prediction wrong there. Red Fox goes down 14-9. Red Fox does finish 2-1. Harfang 2, the second team out of that Saint Jean-sur-Richelieu, Quebec system. They get a 1-point victory over Kombucha Culture. So I know they're not going to nationals, but it's good to see development team getting W's over here. Quarterfinals, it's going to seed here. So Flames on Rose, Harfang, Red Fox, Cold all win. Cold defeats Red Fox 14-10, and Harfang continues their path to victory, winning 14-8. And they also get the tournament W 11-10. Popped in towards the end of that game. I believe it was on hard cap because I saw a score go off and then people saying the game was over. So hard cap rules, which we will not have on Ontario Regionals. That's a little preview of that. That won't be happening there, but it did happen in this tournament. So Harfang wins 11-10. For third, Red Fox takes it 13-8. All right. What did I get? Let's see it. I didn't get any of the top picks right, it looks like. I had Cold first, Red Fox second, Harfang third, Quest fourth. So yeah, it was tough sledding for me over here. I got 3 semis teams correct, just not the right order. So tough in terms of picks, and the picks get worse for me when we talk open. So let's jump into open. This is the one that I had my eyes on specifically because there are a lot of teams that were going to go home. So you had to win some games, have some help, and if you don't, things don't go your way, you're going home or staying home in Quebec and not flying to BC. Cancel those plane tickets, you know? So Pool C had Quake and Manic and Quartz kind of the contenders here. Quake goes 4-0. So the big victory to note is a 1 point, I believe it was Universe point win over Manic. This was on Sunday morning. So this actually put Manic in that 2-3 play-in to get to the game to go. So this was absolutely huge for both teams. It allows Quake to avoid that game to go scenario or game to go scenario and put Manic in a bind because now they just empty the tank and have to play this other big game, okay? They also got 11-6 win over Quartz. Manic finished second in the pool because they did win by 3 over the second team out of Quebec City. Pool D, Mephisto 5-0, showing their might. They had some Masters pickups, Jean-Lévis Champagne, Felix Antoine Daigle, who had an amazing weekend. I was watching a couple of the games, and he had some foot blocks. He was just all over the field. I know he's played at a very high level there, so it was really cool to see some Montreal legends slinging it out against the youngsters. I mean, complete dominance in pool play, 60-16. Flat ballers posted the highest score on them, and that was 15-5. So just wow. This was the big game. Flat ballers and out. The loser has to potentially be the 3rd seed and then have to play the play-in against a harder opponent. Flat ballers wins 13-10. And out, hey, you almost didn't make the 2-3 because you had a big win over Loyal out of Laval, 12-11. So they almost had disaster even further. In the finals, Mephisto went up early, and they take the win, 13-9. So I was wrong about them. They thought, missing some people, U24s, this and that. This might not be the team we see at Nationals. I mean, it isn't, but they still prove they're the best team in that region, and they win over Quake. So maybe this lesson is I picked Quake a couple times. They've disappointed me. So Quake, I might have to pick against you next time is all I'm going to say. So 2-3 play-in. Flat ballers takes care of Quartz 9-6. And then this was a spicy one there. Manic versus Out. This game was on Universe. Got to film it. Manic has the disc. They turn it over. Out has a chance. They're in the red zone. A flick goes a little. I would say it's probably ill-advised at that point. There's some double coverage. I'm not sure if that throw was even open to begin with. So, anyways, throw goes up. Manic D's it, and they work it down the field quite quickly actually on a huck down the line for the score. Layout catch for the win. They put themselves in the game to go against the Flat Ballers. Flat Ballers pickup team. Lots of legends out here. Chuck Cantone really impressed me, and then Zach Massey, who I'll talk about in this game to go. So game to go scenario happens. We're filming the second half out here. Flat Ballers takes half 8-6. So, teams are feeling okay. It's a 2-point game. Not anything to be scared of if you're Manic. But then they get broken, I believe now, based on what I filmed and what I saw, 4 times straight. So that's tough. So immediately the game just starts to get away there because it goes from 8-6 to 12-6. So it just, things just really got away from them. It was tough to watch a little bit because, I was hoping for a really exciting game to go, and it was in the first half. But Zach Massey at one point, running down the pole, just like knocks away a centering pass, just flies in for the block. And it was all Flat Ballers from there. I think maybe that caused some anxiety or stress on the offensive line to see that happen, and perhaps playing a bit more tentative. But they couldn't get a hold for a while. I believe they scored the last 2, it looks like, based on the scoreline. But either way, it was all Flat Ballers from that point on. So, congrats to them. It's to be decided. Been talking with Jordan Ferries, their captain and founder, I guess, of the team. And it's to be decided if they're going to go. Maybe by the time this releases, they've decided. But as of right now, it's TBD. Believe by the rules, inside sources would tell you if they decide not to go, then the team in their region would go, which would be Manic in that case. So Manic hoping that Flat Ballers don't go. Now we're going to do a preview of a tournament happening. Lots of Canadian teams going. This is really cool, And then after that will be main event, talking about U24s and then Ontario, BC regionals, okay? So we're going to talk first about Boston Invite. We're going to go open division. Lots of teams out here. Pool A, we got 2 pools of 5 for your elite bracket. And guess who's the first seed out here? It's Winnipeg General Strike, flying in all the way from Manitoba to play this tournament. Super, super, super cool. So they're in this pool. Scoop out of Boston, Massachusetts. Never heard of them. I've heard of Big Wrench out of Somerville in the same state. Switchback making even further trip all the way from Seattle, Washington. And then Regiment, St. John's, Newfoundland's finest, also at this tournament. So, wow, you get 2 Canadian teams that are going to be at CUC playing in pool play at Boston Invite. Like, come on, that's really exciting. Pool B, Blueprint, Brooklyn, New York zone, Patrick Stegemeller, Ulti-World zone on this team. Sprout out of Devens, Massachusetts. I think they might have a chance to win this whole thing or give it and have a good battle with General Strike in the final. I think they're going to beat Blueprint. We'll see. We have Lantern out of Boston, Massachusetts. Red Tide's the last seed in this pool out of Portland, Maine. And then we have another Canadian team, the team we just talked about, Manic. So they had in their teams in their season schedule, they're going to play regionals and then Boston Invite right after. They did well. I believe they won the Classic pool last year. So nice to see that they're the Elite one this year and have a chance to make some noise. After pool play, 1 and 2 go out in the semis. 3rd place gets you a bye into the 5th place semis, and then 4 and 5 play quarters, okay? So something to keep an eye on. We're going to talk more Canadian teams because in Open, there's also a Classic pool. I just mentioned that Manic was in last year. So Ascension from Sherbrooke, they're not playing the Canadian series really, playing some of those Quebec events, but they're doing a lot of US tournaments this year. They won't be attending CUC. So Ascension, they have Magma Bears out of Westchester, New York, BAG, MBTA, and Odyssey, all from Massachusetts. And so that is their pool. Same setup as Elite if they finish 1st or 2nd, which I believe they can. They'll be headed to the semis. And same setup. So it's going to be a little different in women's where you can actually play in. It's not like that here for the Open division. Or I guess mixed as well. I think that's an option. So we're going to jump into mixed here. Pool D, this is a classic. Harfang is there. So the champions of Quebec playing a tournament the week after. They got Deadweight out of Hartford, Connecticut. Eat Lightning out of Brooklyn, New York. Moon Tower making the trip from Austin, Texas. And Replay out of Boston, Massachusetts. So if they can win their pool, let's take a look here. They would enter quarters against the 4th of Elite Pool A. If they finish 2nd in pool play, they would complete for Classic 1st and would start off against a battle with the 5th of the Elite Pool. So Open, I mentioned there is no movement from Classic to Elite. There is in mixed. So perhaps Harfang can make some noise and join into the Elite bracket there. Women's, so many Canadian teams going. All from Quebec except for 1. But lots of Canadian teams going. Let's start. There are 4 pools of 4 except for 1 pool which has 3. Uneven teams. You hate to see that. You really do. Iris is your 1 seed overall. They have Vintage, Masters team out of Montreal. Kind of fun to have them in their pool as the 8 seed overall, 2nd seed in the pool. Pine Baronis out of New Brunswick, New Jersey, and Riptide out of Portland, Maine. In Pool B, perhaps we'll see an Iris-Venus matchup once again because they're the 2nd seed overall, 1st in the pool. They have Vice out of Cambridge, Massachusetts, Plow out of Northampton, Massachusetts, and Sage, Masters team out of Quebec as well. So you get these Quebec rematches just because there's so many Canadian teams in this side of this tournament. In Pool C, there are none, so maybe they could have moved some things around, but I guess they just decided not to. But Tempest, Newfoundland's finest, they're at this tournament. This is super cool. They're the 4th seed overall. They play Brooklyn Book Club, which obviously you know where they're from. They also have Versa out of Boston, Massachusetts. They get 1 less game, which sucks. I really hate that for them because they're traveling a far way, so hoping they get some games somewhere. They will because there will be some crossovers. So crossovers for pools. If you're Pool 1 or winners of the pool, you get to cross over. If you finish 2 and 3, you're battling to get into the quarters. So either way, you're going to get some good games if you're Tempest and these other teams. So that is Boston Invite, pretty cool tournament. So as I mentioned, or I'm going to correct myself slightly because I mentioned that women's would have a play up, but that's not true because there's only one set of pools there. So mixed is the one where you can move up. Open, you're stuck with where you are with Elite and Classic, and then women's has just the one set of teams going. There are 15 teams going. So that sets up our news. We're going to jump in main event and talk about U24s, and then talk about BC and Ontario regionals. Lots going on. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Sam Burge from the University of Manitoba, your 2022 Huckin A D1 College Women's Coach of the Year. And you're listening to the Huckin A podcast, your coast-to-coast guide for all things Canadian Ultimate.
So U24 recap coming at you. Before I say this recap, we got to get the elephant out of the room, which is Canada did not medal. First time ever at U24s. I'm not going to say at a first time at a Worlds event because we didn't medal at World Games, for example, as well. But I mean, it goes without saying. I think I speak for a lot of different people, but results not what we perhaps hope for. A little bit disappointing, obviously, to not have a team medal. Let's just get that out of the way and just say that. I think there's a lot of promise, even though the results weren't there this time around. A lot of young U20 players that got experience on all the different teams. So obviously some players will have graduated and not have eligibility, but there's a lot to build from and hoping that we can learn from some of the shortcomings that happened for the future. I was talking to my athletic director who used to play Ultimate. I was playing multiple Worlds, and he said Hockey Canada had like a summit of some sort or some sort of meeting when the results weren't to their liking and try to get a reboot on some stuff. Perhaps that's going to happen here. I don't know. Like at the Ultimate Canada Conference, we talk about, I won't be there, but the powers that be talk about what we can do to continue to get back to the podium and continue to do well on the world stage. I had someone ask me, mailbag question, about what Canada needs to do. I wish I had the answers for you. I can say what's happening in other countries. Talked with Ravi Vasudevan. Got that right, Ravi. He's originally from originally from the United States, now lives in Europe. And he was just giving me kind of some insight into what's happening over there. Italy has a really strong youth scene, so that's like an example of a country that's been really doing well, especially in Bologna, developing players. Davide More, just doing a great job over there. Of course, other coaches doing the same and really building into their youth. The UK is a little different because they pick up people kind of in the university age, and they're one of the only places in Europe where you can play Ultimate University, so a lot of them pick it up there. So that's two examples of how two different countries are building. And in terms of Europe, there's concentrated areas. So based on what he had told me, a lot of national teams will practice once a month. And so with the concentrated areas, they get an advantage. Some of the advantages that Canada had, which is our head start, that's been nullified for the most part. And also kind of the major hubs, right? Obviously, we had players from Manitoba and Quebec, but we obviously have Toronto and Vancouver, which has a lot of the talent that comes out. And so when those places are so far away, it's harder to get practice time and just financially, especially with these younger players, to be able to just meet up more often. So it's just not going to happen in the same way that it is going to be for these European countries. And they also have U17s and U20s. So from what also I've been told by Ravi, every other year it's either they have U17 or U20s or they have the actual Worlds event. And so by the time they get to U24s and they've kept a lot of that same core, they've been playing U17s in Europe and at the world stage, and then U20s Europe world stage. And another example would be their senior teams are playing this weekend at Euros. So a lot of those same players are going to be on those world teams at the WUC next year. So they just get that experience. Whereas we haven't even, from my knowledge, it's not public, assistant coaches, tryouts haven't happened. People are applying. That's cool. But you can see what's happening with other countries and how they're ahead a little bit in terms of the preparation. They also have coaches that can stay for multiple cycles, which I think is important. Davide Mori, for example, I keep giving him a shout out, but he's coached the last 3 Italy U24 Open teams. And so when you have that continuity, both within that city, but also within the national team, I think that's really helpful. In terms of how we can continue to, people are going to say catch up. I mean, we talked about this at U20s in the recap. Canada going to tournaments and just like destroying every team and then playing the US in the final is just not something that's happening anymore. So that's something we just have to acknowledge. I think continuing to build into the youth. One thing I thought of was COVID, but I mean, other countries faced COVID as well. So we can't just say it's only COVID that affected us, right? I mean, it affected other countries. So developing into the youth, that U17 idea that Danny had, I think that's good. And yeah, maybe a summit or something where all the high-level coaches, high-performance committee gets together and kind of discusses what do we need to fix, what's going well. There are things that are going well, but also what needs to be fixed. Is it realistic to expect to medal at every U24s, U20s? I don't know. That's a question that the high-performance committee has to ask. I know Canadians expect it, but the world is not just caught up. They're flying and doing really well. And some of those advantages that we have just are mitigated now. So anyways, want to get out of the way. We'll talk recap right now. Last episode, I did already talk about some of these games, so I'll try not to repeat myself. So in pool play, Canada in mix, we're starting out. Took down Switzerland 15-3. Close game against Chinese Taipei 15-13, and then a win over Sweden. Power pools, the highest score that a team put up on them was 8. So they did pretty well there. And then they took down the Swiss in quarterfinals 15-9. Took half 8-5, won pretty comfortably there. So we'll talk about the actual semifinal, which I got a chance to get up to watch. I mean, it was really early out here. The time zone's really thrown off, and mixed having the 9:30 time slot for both the semis and bronze. That was tough, but you got to go support your country out here. I mean, this was noted in the Discord. I had asked them what was happening. Believe it was noted on the broadcast as well. The O-line just struggling a little bit here, especially with some of the Singapore zone looks. Had some D-line players to move in to try to get some holds. There was a really long point in which Singapore got the break 3-1, and I think that really affected some things for them. Canada goes down a half 8-4. We were down 10-4 at one point, giving up 2 breaks right away. And at one point, the scoreline was 12-6. But, they scored 3 straight, making it closer at 12-9. Charles Guay makes a big hustle play. And, yeah, they start to get back. They get the break at 12-8, and then they also get a break at 12-9. Looked like a similar line. There was a Singapore timeout at that point in between the points, and it looked like a similar suspects out there, and they were able to generate some breaks and go 12-9. But Singapore takes care of business. They had a break chance at 12-9, but Singapore scores to make it 13-9, and then holds get traded out for the 14-11 win. Canada has to rebound because unlike the finals, which play on the next day, bronze happens that same day. So they got to rebound. They play Japan. Japan starts out 3-0. But Canada, we eventually make it back. It's 4-4. There's a big goal line stand, and then Logan Keylor, who played really well in the footage that I saw, gets a deep puck from Julien Bernat. Eventually, Keylor gets the goal. And they also have a huge break to make it 7-all. A deep shot goes too far from Japan, and then Grant McDonald goes down the line, finds leading goal scorer Megan Gillis for the score. Japan holds to keep it on serve. Canada had a red zone chance to break for half, but Japan gets a layout block. Keylor on the receiving end of another great shot, had a huge layout or a huge grab there, makes it 10-9. Teams were at 11-11. This was, I think, the tipping point of the game. A throw for Dax Miller goes just a little too far. He made a good effort, but just out of the reach there. Japan gets the break to go up 12-11. So now we're feeling a bit nervous here. And just I don't want to say miscommunication, but a turnover, a throw to a covered player. I literally saw on the Ulti World Discord, not this way, but that's the way it goes. Japan works it up and wins 13-11. So Canada finishes 4th in mixed. Of course, they had some really strong results to begin the tournament, but bracket play is a different beast, of course. So you know, it was tough for them to go down the way they did, but heads held high, especially with a young team. Got to be feeling good if a lot of them continue to play U24s. They'll be able to build on that either with the open or women's, or if they stick with mixed. So let's talk about something really cool. By my count, 14 people in double digits in points. That is exciting. Philip Craggle leads all players with 26. He had 13 assists and 13 goals. Dual threat out here. Calvin Colberry, second with 22. He had 17 assists. Dax Miller had 12 assists. And then Megan Gillis leading all scores. Female matching player getting 14 goals. So I love the distribution. We had talked about it last episode where every player on all the teams, open, mixed, and women's, contributed on the score sheet. And you're seeing double-digit helpers out here as well. Or double-digit points, I should say, for 14 players. Spirit scores. Let's talk about that briefly. So we received a Spirit score of 9.67. Canada received low Spirit scores from Singapore and Japan. They got a 1 for fair-mindedness, attitude, and communication from Singapore, and then a 1 for rules and fouls from Japan. Canada also sent a Spirit score of 7 to Singapore, 0 for rules, 0 for fairness. So, I mean, that's a contested game. It's semifinals, so you know, the classic adage, tempers flare and all that good stuff. So that does happen a little bit. So Canada finishes third last in Spirit, 9.67, close to 10, of course. So, you know, gotta give some kudos that it wasn't like they were like at a 8 or like 9 or something. They did receive 1.56 for rules and knowledge use, 1.89 for fouls and body contact, and 1.89 for fair-mindedness. Want to give a quick shout out. I know we don't talk a lot. We talk about some American teams, but you don't see this happen very often where the U.S. wins Spirit and wins the whole thing. So that is pretty cool to see a team do both. Often you see sometimes the inverse where a team finishes kind of lower in the bracket or in the standings and then gets top in Spirit. So big shout out to the USA there for their win. They're pretty dominant, and they show in the Spirit standings too. Now moving on to women's, we're going to talk what their results were first. So we talked about some of their games on the last episode, especially the big pool play games of Germany and US. So I'm going to jump right into quarters here. The other matches, they weren't particularly close. They beat New Zealand and Australia 15-7, win over China as well, 15-4. So quarters, cruising out here to beat Colombia 15-5. But then, you know, you got to look away perhaps if you're the women's team listening or fans of that, because the semi just did not go their way against Japan. 15-5. Holds were traded to start the game, but a bunch of turnovers took place. Japan just got the better of those exchanges. They were down a half 8-4. They had a break chance. This was, I think, an important point for them. They had a break chance. They were starting out on D. Japan starting out on O. They got hand blocked in the red zone. And I think it was just, it was downhill already at 8-4, but I think that really takes out the spirits, you know, because you're trying to break. You potentially can make it 8-5 and make it a game there, but they get broken to make it 10-4, and eventually it ends 15-5. The D-line does not get a break in this contest as they go down by that scoreline of 15-5. Now, so they have to rebound once again. I think a shorter turnaround time because they played in a later time slot than the mixed team. They're playing for bronze against Germany. They start out 2-0, got to be feeling good, but they give up a Callahan to make it 2-0. There was a trading of breaks. Canada actually breaks for half. A big cross-field throw from someone that also impressed me in this tournament, Abba Brudney. Full name Arabella, I think. But Brudney making a play. Penelope Robert getting full extension. Huge grab to make it 11-9. It's on our Instagram somewhere, I'm sure. Altiworld filmed that, clipped it on the Instagram. It's there. Germany holds and breaks to make it 11-11. So we got a game, folks. We have a chance here. It's 13-11. But we can't take advantage here. So Germany gets the hold and then eventually breaks back off of a turf throw from Matty Young, and then it's 13-13. Okay, so now it's 13-13. There is opportunity for us to score. Rachel Cook has the disc. There's a high stall throw that kind of doesn't work out, but there's a foul call. It's contested. Throw goes up once again. Gaudu snags it for the score. Had some crazy layouts that we've clipped. Gets the goal. It's 14-13. Now, Germany holds, even though there's multiple turnovers. And same thing on the last point on Universe. There's multiple turnovers here. Okay, there was actually a low throw that the game advisor ruled down. Based on the replay, I believe that it was down as well. So here's what happens. Germany works it down in towards the end zone, and Penelope Robert takes the injury sub, and Brudney comes on in her stead. So they work the disc a little bit. Disc is now at the center of the field near the end zone. There look like a switching of force. So you have to go back and watch the footage. Once again, this is my appeal for you to be a subscriber. So it looked like they were forcing backhand. All of a sudden it switches and it looks like they're going flick. And then Jacobson realizes she's on the wrong side and switches. But then Brudney also switches back to backhand. And it just allows a player to be free, and it just results in Germany scoring. Perhaps they were forcing middle there. But there's some confusion at the end. You can see some frustration, and Germany gets a W. So a tough way to end the tournament for them. I'm not going to talk too much about that or talk too much about it further. But that's what happened. Germany gets the win. Canada settles for fourth in this tournament. So 9 players in double digits for the women's team. Sarah Jacobson beasting it here, 30 points, which puts her 9th amongst all players in the women's division at this tournament. Matty Young, 16 assists as the main handler on their offensive line. A lot of players making plays, and Ultra just loving clipping them, so it was pretty fun to see all those highlights out there. You can check them out on our Instagram as well if you feel so inclined. Spirit scores. Canada finishes second. Really cool. 10.67, getting a 2.22 in fair-mindedness and a 2.44 in attitude. They never received a score lower than 10, which obviously makes sense given their score line. They gave 9s to China, Colombia, and Japan. Once again, all these Spirit standings are public, so you can take a look. They received 12 from Germany twice. We talked about how Spirit scores can sometimes be skewed by certain teams. They did give some 10s and 11s, so perhaps they're a little bit higher than others, but I don't think that would severely skew their score in the same way. I could see it potentially skewing the score a little bit, but I think definitely well-earned for this women's team, getting second in Spirit. So a pretty cool feat, to say the least. Perhaps some consolation. Obviously, they would have liked to come up with a silver medal, but they get second in Spirit, finish just above GB and Germany. Now, moving on to Open Division. Had outlined their game against Belgium, so I'm not going to talk about that again. They had some big pool play wins, like I mentioned, against New Zealand and Japan. This is the only stream game in the bracket for Canada, spoiler alert, because they do end up losing in Germany 15-10. They actually go up 6-4, but it's tough because they end up giving up half 8-6. So there were multiple turnovers. There was a huge foot block from Elliot Alwar, but Germany gets a hold to be down 6-5. A turf throw from Brissett. Not his finest game. I'm just going to say that. I'm not trying to put people on blast here. But just a couple tough throws here. A low throw to Seneschal, which leads to a Germany quick break. An inside shot that doesn't work out for Canada. Germany punches it in again for the break. There's a nice poach block from Germany on a cut from Stonehouse trying to cut across from the front of the stack. So the person who was defending the handler just stays there and gets the block. They get like a crazy crossfield sky. 2 people on the back of this German player goes up strong for the score. They take half 8-6, and they also hold out a half. So Canada gets a hold to make it 12-9. A little Selly action happening. I'm not going to say who, but a little Selly action. I'm not the biggest fan of this is just my own thoughts. Everyone is entitled to their own, of course. But, you know, when you're selling like that, you're down 12-9 and things aren't going your way. I don't know. It's not something I would do. But I get why you do that, to get some energy. And it does work out for them because guess what? It actually gives them a break. Good pressure from this Canada defense in zone look. Germany drops in their own end zone. And then Germany holds. And they get a big sky to make it 14-10 after a shot to Alex Bedard doesn't work out. And then an inside shot that's too high for Stonehouse for Canada leads to this Tobias Marhofer absolute, you know, I'm not trying to hype up Germany here, but what a shot. This was like from the front of the end zone, of his own end zone, to the middle of the attacking end zone on a rope. And it was just, wow, what a throw. Couldn't believe it. Aotearoa Discord going nuts. But they get the victory. And so Canada moving down, disappointing, but they got to play it out here. They're playing things out for 5th. They beat Australia 15-6, and then they're in this close matchup with Japan. They go down at half 8-6, and they're able to eventually get some breaks. They were down at one point 13-10, but they get 2 straight breaks to make it 13-12. But trading a holds, defense can't get another one. And Japan takes the contest 15-13. So Canada finishes 6th, by my calculations, the lowest they've ever finished at U24s. They finished 5th, the open team did, in 2018 in Australia. Finished 2nd in 2019 in Heidelberg. So looking at stats, 9 players in double digits. So mixed team, the one with the most spread out in terms of distribution. Let's take a look at some of the leaders. Wookie Lewis, 21 assists, 12 goals, 33 points in total, which would put him 10th amongst all players in the open division. His 21 assists would tie him 7th amongst all players. So pretty cool feat for him. Stonehouse, 21 goals, would put him 5th total. So amongst the tournament. This might not be calculated on the stat sheet, but Brendan Adibe is what I think some of them were calling him on the stream as well, but he was really impressed me defensively. Just some of the plays, I've seen some clips, but also some of the footage, just really stepped up on their D-line. So I was really impressed with him. I mean, a lot of different players had to step up, but I just want to give a quick shout out to Adibe there. Canada finishes 6th in spirit, 10.5. They get a 1.80 in fair-mindedness, 1.89 in rules, but they're above 2 in both fouls and attitude. So I think that's something to take away. They received a 7 from New Zealand, and of course, you know, then I got to do my little research and take a look at what New Zealand gave other people. But they gave some high scores to other teams, like 13 and 12. So it's not like they're just giving they're giving low scores to everyone. So perhaps that was justified based on the game. I didn't get to see it, of course. So Canada gave out an 8 to Belgium. So that was, I believe, the lowest score that they gave out. So it's always interesting to note not just the scores that you get, but also like what you're giving out here. That's kind of, I don't know, I take a look at some of these. They gave 9s out to New Zealand and Germany as well. So that's sort of where the spirit scores lie. Finishing 6th in spirit is pretty cool for them. And they finished above the U.S. in spirit, who had 10.33. And the U.S., the open team specifically, I think all the teams are pretty dominant. But just watching that U.S. Open team in the final, they're just on another level. That's something, too, about the whole catch-up idea. The U.S. looked as dominant as ever in U24s that I've seen. And their offense was honestly truly boring to watch because they were just so good. And so, yeah, kudos to them. Lots of work to do here for Canada. Wishing all the best to all the people trying out. Expecting some big things at Worlds next year in Australia, where it's like the senior teams. So all the best there. We're going to take a break. This episode's long, but there's lots of good stuff coming up. So taking a quick break, and then we're going to talk BC and Ontario Regionals.
Hey, c'est Phil Dorval, directeur technique pour Ultimate Québec. et vous écoutez le Huckin Podcast, votre guide pour l'Ultimate canadien d'un océan à l'autre.
So BC Regionals coming at you. It's mixed division time. That's the one that lots of people got some excitement about because you got a lot of teams fighting for 4 bids. So 13 teams fighting for 4 bids. Gonna talk about the pools to start. And in this format, it's actually really important to win your pool. Because if you don't, you have to play kind of more this like low bracket to finish third. So to that third and fourth. So I don't know. If I were a team, you got to try to win your pool, which obviously is the main goal, but especially important for this tournament. Your top 4 seeds in this tournament: Red Flag, the 1 seed; Yop, the Masters team out of Vancouver. You know, I love that they want to give these Master teams some burn, but for me, it just makes it hard to swallow a little bit, or to see that, like, yes, they get to play, but they also get a chance to take away some opportunities from other teams because let's say they do well, it forces like a game to go that would be happening perhaps earlier now in the tournament. And they're just not competing for nationals. So like, why? I don't know. I know I'm going to get some comment about it from the fact checker himself, but you can put a comment in. But I personally don't like that these regionals only teams are in there. It just messes things up for everyone. So that's just my opinion. Super Dumplings, the top seed of Pool C; TT, your 4 seed overall, Pool D, and then they get full Sencat. Great matchups they've had this season. They're the 5th seed. Fight Club, the 6th seed, Blaze 7, Strawberry Kitty Kisses are 8. And so the reason why I'm listing those 8 teams minus Yop, so sorry Yop, you get cut here, 7 teams, is because I think these 7 teams all have chances to get bids. So that's why I'm talking about it. All right. The format 2, if you finish 2nd or 3rd in your pool, this is where you get to play out. You get to play out for 4th here. So let me just kind of get a grip of what's going on here. All right. So you 2 threes, you play each other. Then if you win that, you have the 4 teams facing off and trying to win that to eventually get into the 4th place playing game. So I'll break that all down. It's pretty confusing schedule, but I'll try to break it all down as I make my picks. That'll make it a little bit easier for everyone involved. So the first pool: Red Flag, Strawberry Kitty Kisses, Just Okay, and Wii Sports. I have Red Flag winning the whole pool, of course. They won 13-2 over Full Sencat at quarters at Disc Flicker. So I think we know what they've done. 2nd at Worlds last year. We know who they are. So I think they're going to take the whole thing, in my opinion. Okay. So that's maybe not that hot of a take. Strawberry Kitty Kisses, I think they'll get 2nd. Yop has an interesting pool. They have Blaze in here. Blaze got a big pickup. Well, they got a couple. They added Devin Thompson to the roster, who's played for years, I believe. But they added Ty Barbieri. So I thought, Ty Barbieri going to be playing GOAT. That is not the case. He's actually going to be playing with Blaze. Just at regionals, I've been told as well by him personally. So perhaps that will help ignite the Blaze to a victory here. Pool C. Pool B also has Fable and Forever Too Young. Pool C: Super Dumplings, Fight Club, Genesis, and Diamond Tusk. Super Dumplings, they lost in semis at Disc Flicker to Justin's Garden Tools, but they have a win over TT 12-11. Been told to watch out for this high jumper named Karsten Harder. So at this tournament, watch out for this kid. Fight Club will not have Bren 10, from what I've been told, till Sunday. Perhaps that changes. But they got some names out there: Oleana Chan, Lily Huang, Krista Aiken on the female matching side. So keep an eye out for Fight Club as well. And then Pool D is TT, Full Sencat, Royals, and Mola Mola. TT's had some up and down results this season. At Sunflicker, they lost to Lit in quarters. They do have a win over Full Sencat. 2 wins actually. Over Full Sencat at Disc Flicker, but they did suffer a 12-11 loss to Super Dumplings in quarters of that same tournament. So perhaps they got the upper edge on full send cat. But yeah, we'll see. There's a lot of red flaggers on this full send cat team. So perhaps that will carry them through here to a victory. And so that will lead me to making picks here. And that will allow you to understand the bracket a little bit more. You can also go, as you're listening to this, go to the BC Ultimate website and follow along on their Google Sheet because some of these brackets can be a little bit confusing. So for the 1 to 4, I have Red Flag winning their pool, Full Send Cat beating TT, Blaze winning their pool, and Fight Club winning their pool. So that means I have 3 2 seeds winning. I just don't think it's going to be that chalky. So that's what I have. I have Red Flag winning the whole thing over Fight Club. So Fight Club automatically gets second, so they've qualified. Okay. And because Full Send Cat and Blaze lost, they're fighting for third place. Okay. So they're fighting for third place. I have Full Send Cat winning that game and booking their ticket to Nationals. Now, let's go into the more, the play-in bracket kind of style. So 2 3s play each other. Okay. So I have Strawberry Kitty Kisses, Super Dumplings, Yop, and TT winning those matchups. SKK and Super Dumplings, I have Super Dumplings winning. And I have Yop versus TT with Yop winning. So that sets up a game for quote-unquote 5th place here between Super Dumplings and Yop. And I have Super Dumplings winning. So Yop would finish 6th in this tournament. Super Dumplings is now quote-unquote 5th, but they're going to be playing the loser of that 3rd place game, which is Blaze. Blaze is not going to do the lose-lose, see ya, and they're going to get 4th. So I have those 4 teams making it. To recap: Red Flag, Fight Club, Full Send Cat, and then Blaze in that order, finishing 1 to 4 in this tournament. So some teams going to be going home. Strawberry Kitty Kisses, TT, by my calculations. So we'll see what happens. You know, I've been proven wrong in the past. Super Dumplings as well would be going home and not attending. So that's mixed. Once again, you can check out the format if you'd like. Women's, we got round robin pool play. A couple of regionals only teams. You know my feelings about that. But Vance has some ex-traffic players. Crystal Koo, Jen Kwok, Laura Mason, Aaron Bussin, to name a few. So a team to keep an eye out on. My prediction is going to be Drive and Hucklebears will be the game to go. And I predict Hucklebears will win, put Victoria on the map here. So it'll be Traffic, Drift, Hucklebears. There's 3 bids, 4 teams going for it. It was noted to me, this is interesting, because you would often think that matchup, like we saw in Open, would be Blackfish versus Surf. That was the last time slot of Sunday. So kind of they understood it as the proverbial game to go. In this round robin, that's not the case. So the fates of both teams of Drive and Hucklebears could be decided on Saturday at 4:30 local time. So they'll be taking each other on that matchup. And it's just interesting because usually you would think it was on Sunday. And it's also round robin. So, hey, there could be 3-way ties, little things throwing some wrenches into that. And another caveat is, of course, teams have to accept the bids for nationals. I'm not sure if it has to be right after, but you do have to say you're publicly, or to the TD, you're declaring that you are going in this tournament. Now let's look at Ontario. Going to start with juniors. So juniors happened and senior open for BC last week. Juniors happening this weekend for Ontario. Got some regionals only teams out here as well. My stance on this is a little bit different for juniors because this is more like development. And also all the teams that want to go. So I think it's a little different when it's that scenario. I don't know, it just makes it easier for tournament schedule makers, like I said, or people trying to keep an eye on what's going on. So Chain Reaction out of Durham, they were stud, but now they've got a sick name, Chain Reaction out here. So there are 9 teams, 5 in Pool B. So that's Ignite out of Ottawa, Uproar out of Toronto, Blaze out of Ottawa, Rogue Squadron, Peterborough's finest, and then Chain Reaction out of Durham. Region, Pool C. So the other pool in Junior Open only has 4 teams. Toro out of Toronto, Scorch out of Ottawa, Havoc out of Toronto, and Fuel out of Ottawa. So some pool play games I want to watch out for are the Durham versus Peterborough matchup, so Rogue Squadron versus Chain Reaction. Perhaps there are some players from Adam Scott and Bowmanville High School that took on that battle at the Canadian High School Championships. Perhaps they're on these teams and they'll go to battle. I also like this developmental team matchup between Havoc and Fuel. So I think it's cool to get these players some great experiences, and I think playing in this tournament will allow them to do so. So in the finals, I have Ignite and Toro. Toro got some wins out here at Tux. They defeated Goose and Viper, and they had a close loss to Phoenix. So the second team out of Ottawa. So Ignite going to be trying to avenge that close. Phoenix did win, but trying to avenge it a little bit as well. I have Ignite winning and defeating Toro. I think Ignite, just with what I've seen the last few years, I think they got it. And then I have Uproar and Scorch in the third place game. There is a 2-3 crossover. I have Scorch. So I'm picking a little Ottawa out here. Maybe it's because I'm closer to them now geographically, but I'm picking Ottawa to win out here. Now, junior women's. 6 teams going, 5 bids, so everyone that wants to go goes. For Open, all the teams that want to go will also go, as I already mentioned. So the teams that are going, Ignite, Toro, Scorch, Blaze, Uproar, and Chain Reaction are all the teams that are going for Open. So now for women's, the only regionals only team is Development Team and Ruby. They're the last in the pool. You have Wicked West out of Ottawa, Toro, Toronto, Wicked East, second team out of Ottawa, Uproar out of Toronto, Chain Reaction out of Durham, and then Ruby. So Toro didn't get a W at Tux. They had a close game against Queen Peas at that tournament. Obviously, a big pool play game, to watch is Wicked West versus Toro. But I also want to see Uproar and Wicked East, the second teams out of those cities, Toronto and Ottawa, going at it. After pool play and the dust has settled, you'll have 1 versus 2, 3 versus 4, 5 versus 6. I'm going to have Wicked West. It's going to be an Ottawa sweep in the juniors is what I'm predicting out here. But I do have Uproar winning third. So those are some of my picks. There is no picks contest for that. That's sealed anyways. So thanks for those who entered the picks contest. Now, let's jump into Open. Lots of intrigue at this tournament. There is going to be 11 teams total. 9 teams going for 4 bids. Goose and Viper regionals only. Your pools are GOAT. Pool D here, GOAT, GT, Phoenix, and then Viper. Viper out of Kitchener-Waterloo Masters team. Pool E is Phoenix, Hound, Maverick, and Roy. And then Pool F is Pipe, Too Bad, and Goose. And so let's start with Pool D. Their format is going to be like a mini bracket, I guess. So GOAT will take on Viper and GT out of Toronto second team. Out of that system specifically, will be taking on Phoenix. Phoenix, I mean, they got some inconsistent results. They have beat Viper already this season, but they haven't had wins over some of these teams that maybe above them a little bit in the weight class here. Mentioned that they had that close win over Roy. GT, on the other hand, fourth at Tux, 2 losses to Hound. They won Callahan for kids, but we won't take that too much into account. But fourth as Jazz as well. And of course, the notable W was their win over Quake in the quarterfinals. A couple players will be missing for them at this tournament because of, or at least on Saturday, because of the Rush game in Detroit. So based on the Rush roster that's public now, GT will be without Zach Armstrong, James McLean, and Oren Benoon for this tournament on Saturday. They'll be back on Sunday. I believe they're coming back from Detroit on Saturday. So will be a lot of driving for them, but they want to help their team get to nationals. So anywho, I have GOAT and GT winning their first matchups, and then GOAT taking it, getting themselves in. Well, all three teams out of this pool will get to quarterfinals. The big matchup will be the loser of, or the winner of Phoenix Viper, which I have Phoenix winning. So now let's move into Pool E. Phoenix, Roy, Hound, Maverick. Phoenix, I know you scrim TC Open. I haven't seen you in a tournament, but I know you're a strong team. So I have you beating Roy. Roy finished 7th at Tux and then 17 out of 18 at Jazz. Hound had already mentioned the big wins over GT. Jazz didn't really go well for them. They had a close loss to Manic, but results a little bit to be desired at that tournament. Maverick has no wins over any of the senior club teams playing this weekend. They've beaten Toro, Uproar, and Viper, but they've yet to take down some of the teams that they're looking to punch up if they want to get a bid to nationals. Roy and Maverick going at it. That's pretty exciting as a alma mater of both of those teams. So I have Phoenix and Hound winning, with Phoenix taking this little mini bracket pool. And I gotta figure out who I picked to actually win this loser matchup between Maverick and Roy. I have Roy winning. So like I said, I don't think I'm too biased because I'm alma maters of both. Okay, Pool F, Pipe, Too Bad, Goose. Pipe, I have to rescind a statement I made on an earlier podcast. They are not undefeated. They've actually been defeated, but they've won 2 tourneys. They defeated GT 9-6 in semis of Tux, and then a 13-11 win over this Too Bad team at the same tournament. And they also won Jazz Fest after bouncing back from some pool play losses. They got some W's over there over Manic, RC, Red Circus, and then out in the final. For Too Bad, you can take some of their Tux results with a grain of salt because they've added some players, they've subtracted some players. So I'm going to pull up their roster right now because this team, hey, folks, they might have a shot here, is all I'm saying. They almost had a shot last year. I maintained this statement that if Cam Kennedy doesn't get hurt in their game to go against Hound, they might have won. They were looking pretty good. The Thomas Stanton Cam Kennedy connection was working out pretty well for them. So Too Bad, they've added Cooper Too Good once again. He wasn't on the Tux roster. David Murray, who's played Union, he was a D-line captain and for GT when they won their national championship in 2016. They also add Matuz Bosian. Not sure what kind of level he'll be at because I know he's played at a high level. He played for Union back in the day. Perhaps he can add some good handling prowess to them. They have Zach Young again, who played for them at Tux, played for GT West 10. There's a few other names on this team that could make some noise. So don't sleep on the Too Badders out here is all I'm going to tell you, folks. Goose development team, I don't expect to see them get a W. I expect Pipe to beat Too Bad in a close contest here. Okay, so now, something I got to talk about with Pipe. On their roster for the Rush, they are missing Oscar Stonehouse, Griffin McKee, and Justin Chung, on Saturday. So once again, they'll have these players back. So there's a bracket that takes place here. And this will actually be occurring on Saturday at 4:30. So there's a couple really spicy quarterfinals matchups. Goat versus Roy, I think Goat's going to take that one. Phoenix versus Phoenix, I think Phoenix is going to take that one. But the two matchups I want to circle for you to keep an eye out on is Too Bad Hound and Pipe GT. Whew! I'm excited to be able to be at the venue, obviously, because I'll be playing. So to watch those games, because that's going to be pretty fiery games out here. I'm predicting Too Bad to get the upset. Don't come at me, Hound. I mean, you can with the receipts. I got Too Bad winning, and I have GT pulling the upset on Pipe early on in this bracket play here. Really just coming out with some fire, and they're going to take down the Pipe, who maybe, I'm not going to say they're too overconfident because they got 2 tournament W's, but they know they got to put in a lot of work here. But, for my prediction's sake, I got GT winning, and then I have Goat, Phoenix winning their respective matchups. So the key thing to keep an eye on at 8:30 Sunday is game E and F on the schedule here. So Goat, Too Bad, and Phoenix GT, the first place semis, will be games to go. So if you win that, you're automatically going to nationals. I have Goat winning the whole thing. They'll have a shorthanded roster, but I still think their experience and talent will carry through. Yeah, I think they'll carry through. So Goat and Phoenix will be 1 and 2. So now the teams that lost the quarters, Roy, Hound, Phoenix, and Pipe, will have to play at 8:30 on Sunday to continue their road to the show here. So I have Hound defeating Roy and then Pipe defeating Phoenix, effectively ending the seasons of Phoenix and Roy. Now we have the third place semis. GT and Hound, Pipe and Too Bad. I got Pipe and GT winning, but then I got Pipe winning the revenge game over GT. They're going to come out angry. They're going to win that one. That is a third place game at 12:30. So if you lose the third place semifinals, so that's Hound and Too Bad, you play each other in a game at 12:30. That's the play-in for the game to go. Too Bad's going to win it. It's hard to beat a team twice. I still have them doing that. They're going to make the game to go. But GT is not going to do the lose-lose, see ya. they're going to take the game to go and go to nationals, book their flights already there. Something to keep an eye out on is a couple of these matchups in this third place bracket that's happening. If they're rematches, they'll swap some teams. So that's actually in the clause already in the tournament schedule. So that could happen depending on what takes place, that you could get some funky results, and teams could get switched around. All right, we're going to go to mixed here. There are 4 pools. One has 4, the others have 3. 13 teams total. A couple are regionals only. So 11 teams fighting for 7 bids. Whole lot of bids to be had here in mixed. As I'll be playing, I will not be picking and making picks for this division, which I think makes sense. So your number 1 seed is Crash, Union 2, Local 6133, Crank 4, Crux 5, KWG 6, Danger Noodle is 7, Mixed Berries 8, Zen 9, Thunder 10. I'm going to stop there because I think the Mixed Berries, Zen, Thunder, those are the teams that are going to be trying to vie for that last spot, in my opinion. Once again, not making picks though. Pool H, little mini bracket. Once again, you have Crash, Remix, Mixed Berries, and Zen. Crash, you won Tux, so we got to give you some love here. A lot of big wins. They've defeated Crux, Union, Danger Noodle, U24 Mixed, KWG. Like, they're strong. They played Mixed Easterns to, I think they would admit this, lackluster results, probably not as best as they could perform. So they're going to come back in for a revenge. They haven't played in a while. Mixed Easterns happened earlier in June. They didn't have touring tune-up or anything like that to kind of get ready. Mixed Berry Zen, is this like a game to go early on? Like, that's crazy that they're playing like right away, but that will be an interesting matchup. They did lose to Thunder, this Mixed Berries team did at pool play at Tux. They did finish 11th by beating them, that same team at Tux. At touring tune-up, they did beat Wine Club, which is a regionals only team that's going. That's cool. They did finish 7th at this tournament at touring tune-up. Zen, for them, they had a loss that they want to forget to Toronto Remix in pool play at Tux. They finished 13th there. Touring tune-up, they finished 9th. They had a big universe point win. I remember watching that as I was getting to my car over Wine Club. But yeah, they've lost to KWG, the Masters team that's not regionals only, or that is regionals only. So we'll see how they do. This will be a interesting game. Like, I think that 10:30 game between those two, that will really decide the course of what's going to happen in terms of their bid opportunities. Once again, not going to pick, so we'll let that stand as it is. Pool J, Union, they just came off the win, as you talked about in the news, at heavyweights. They finished 3rd at Tux, lost to Crash in pool play 12-10, but then they were able to kind of keep some momentum going. They beat Local in quarters 11-7, but then lost to TC at semis in that tournament, but rebounded with a win over Danger Noodle. And they actually will match up at 12:30 on Saturday. This Danger Noodle team, their results haven't been what I think they thought it could be coming into the season. So they're looking for a bounce back at regionals. You can do it with a big win over Union in pool play. Okay. Thunder rounding out the pool. They're trying to keep their national hopes alive. And they're going to need to try to get upset W somewhere in this pool. Okay, Pool K, we got Local 613, Wine Club, and Notorious KWG. These two teams have played each other, the two top seeds in the pool, 613 and KWG, before. Local beat them in pool play, but then KWG won in a shortened game for 5th at this tournament. KWG does hold a win over the U24 team, so nothing to scoff at there. 9-8. I remember there were some weird hard cap rules, so people were pausing as not even letting the point finish, so that was interesting. But anywho, KWG does hold a victory over them, okay? They did lose the first place crossover to Crux at touring tune-up, and they finished 4th in the tournament. They lost 12-11 in the 3rd place game at touring tune-up. So these are two regionals only teams, but, once again, it'd be interesting if regionals only teams weren't there, so that it can make the bracket a little bit easier to understand. Especially when we get down to it, if Notorious KWG finishes in the top 7, which I predict they will, that will make the game to go a little bit less flashy, and I'll explain why later. All right, Pool M, we got the best matchup of the day, at least in pool play, Crank and Crux. I mean, Crank, you won Frisbee Fest. You defeated Harfang, the number 1 team out of Quebec, and a victory over Cold, so nothing to scoff at there. They did lose 11-8 to them in pool play, to Crux at pool play at Turing Tune-Up, but avenged it with a win in semis, 10-7. They came second to that tournament. Crux finished 7th at Tux. They did beat KWG at May Days, which is a tournament that happened in Kitchener-Waterloo. They also beat them. They also beat KWG for 3rd at Turing Tune-Up. And I already had mentioned their battles with Crank there. So this will be the spiciest matchup of the day. There'll be quarters and semis and all that. If you make semis, so kind of similar to Open, if you make semis, you are automatically going. Okay, so win semis and you're off to the show. That's the first and second, okay? This is where, you got to strap in because this is where it gets perhaps a little bit confusing. If you lose quarters, okay, you drop down and then you're taking on a fellow loser of the quarters and you guys go to battle. Okay, cool. And then now you take on the losers of the semis. Okay, so that's game J and K on the schedule, 10:30 Sunday morning. So the second game of the day for all the teams involved. That will be proverbial game to go. So if you win that, you're going to be playing for 3rd. So that'll be the 3-4 game, a 3-4 game. Okay. Now we're going to drop down once again. If you, these are some of the teams that finish like lower in the pools. So by my look here, if you finish 4th in Pool H, and then Axiom, which, well, I predict it'll be Axiom, the 3rd out of Pool M, they'll kind of play in a play-in game, and then there's some more play-in action happening. And the real, kind of where it gets started is the losers of that 3rd place quarter play-in will get involved into the bracket here into game T and U. And that will just continue on forward where there's eventually some games to go for 5th. So there's a 5th place semis. And if you win that, you finish 5th and 5th. And if not, if you lose that, you finish 6th. And then the losers of those 5th place semis will play a quote unquote game to go. But once again, that could change because if KWG is in the top 7, they of course will not be taking a bid. So essentially the game to go could potentially be just playing for seed. And the games before the 5th place semis could potentially be games to go. Okay, so hopefully that tracks. Basically, if Notorious KWG is in the top 7, the game to go, which would be for 7 and 8, the 8th team would be 7th and the 7th team would be 6th because KWG would be taking a spot from somebody else. So lots to keep an eye on. That let's see, 5th place quarter play-in is at 10:30 a.m. So if you're around the complex, you should watch out for that. Once again, this will be an interesting division. 11 teams going for it, 7 bids. Okay. Whew. Lots to talk about this episode, running out of breath here. Final division, we're going to highlight women's, 7 teams total. All the teams that want to go are going. Okay, so that's Sixers, Stella, Incognito, PPF, and Oz. So 5 teams. Stello and Lore are not going. They're just regionals only. So Sixers, top seed, makes sense. Only dropped 1 game at Fishbowl, a 9-8 loss to Stello. Stella was 3-3 at Fishbowl. They had wins over U24 though, big ups. Sage and Stello, all 3 of those wins were by 1. Stello was at Tux. They won the whole thing. Their closest game in that round robin action was a 3-point win over Incognito out of Toronto. They bageled Lore and have a 13-6 win over PPF. They also went 3-3 at Fishbowl. Incognito, second at Tux. Convincing wins over teams lower in the pool there. They also finished second at Jazz Fest losing to Cube 11-8. So this Incognito team could make some noise as well. Lore, by their victory over PPF, has them seated higher. They also finished third at MGM out of 4 teams. PPF has not beaten an Ontario team at regionals so far this season. They beat some Quebec teams at Jazz, so they were able to kind of make a little bit of a bracket run there. Oz has only played Callahan for kids. Okay, so first and second I have Sixers and Stella finishing first and second. I have Incognito taking down Stello for third. Some of the interesting pool play matchups, looking forward to Sixers versus Incognito, because of course that system battle. Same thing, rivals. Actually, more lovers than rivals, because some of the players that play Stello, and vice versa. So Stella, Stello, and then Lore PPF, a rematch from Tux. Want to see what's going on there. And by my notes, that wraps up the episode for this week. I think this episode is going to be an hour and a half or something like that. So thank you for sticking through. Apologies if some of it was a little bit, especially with the brackets, a little bit harder to understand. It's easier for me because I have the schedule in front of me to take in. But thank you for sticking through. If you listened to the whole episode, that was a lot to prep and a lot to record. So I appreciate anyone that does listen to it. Once again, social's been popping off, so thank you for that. It's been really cool to see that. So continue to follow us on socials. Drop a like on YouTube. Just with the long episode, going to be no subs only for this week. Going to be recapping all of that good action, Boston Invite, the other stuff going on, regionals that we just talked about. And then next week, also preview USA Masters Nationals. So a few Canadian teams going down there going, I guess, south-ish over to Colorado. So for that tournament. So all that will come up next week. Thank you again for tuning in. Be a subscriber. Watch all the footage that you want, especially from U24s. And then, of course, there'll be some footage from Pro Elite West that you can take in as well that I talked about earlier in the episode. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. See you next time.